Hola et bienvenue, and finally, hello and welcome to this new episode of the UEFA Champions League predictions as well. It is the quarter-final stages. That is mad. From the playoffs that I talked about earlier on, and now we are finally here at the Champions League quarter-final stage. It is absolutely bonkers, but it's how fast time goes. Time goes really, really fast. What is mad to think is in 2 months, it will be the Champions League final. It will most likely be the Champions League final. And then, bosh, that's it. That's it for another, well, for summer. And then in August, that's when the Champions League playoffs comes around, and that is when we finally get to talk about that in good detail as well. Just like that, let's get straight underway and let's talk about our first quarter-final tie. So the first tie we have comes to the Emirates Stadium for this one between Arsenal and Real Madrid, and this is exactly what UEFA would have wanted. Arsenal v Real Madrid. Two giants in their own country. Arsenal are big in the English football. Real Madrid, obviously, biggest club in the world. So we know what this means to both sides. The Emirates will be rocking. That's one thing I'm going to guarantee. The Emirates hasn't seen a bigger night than this since when they played Bayern Munich. And I think they drew against Bayern Munich. So Real Madrid for them will be a good challenge. It will be a challenge and all that. I think Arsenal can deal with. I think they can deal with the challenge here at the Emirates. I mean, the main player, Bukayo Saka, is coming back from injury, which is exactly what Mikel Arteta would have wanted from his team. Because attacking-wise, they've not had much rep weapons. I mean, Mikel Merino had to play up front. Granted, he did a very, very good job, Mikel Merino. But that really says a lot if Mikel Merino is coming on. So, yeah, but Real Madrid, they also have a fair few injuries leading up to the game. The likes of Eder Militao, Dani Carvajal, Tchouaméni, Lunin, Mendy and Dani Ceballos, they are all out of action for this one. So, Arsenal can exploit Real Madrid, but the loss of Gabriel is massive. Gabriel was one person they did not want to get injured, especially at this time. It's like risk and reward, you get what I mean? The reward is you've got Bukayo Saka back. The risk is Gabriel's out until end of the season. So that will be a killer blow to that defence of Arsenal. Granted, we do have William Saliba. Jakub Kiwior will then be the most likely person, or Julian Timber, that will play in that defensive role. Now, I think William Saliba is just fine, but Jakub Kiwior, I'm not sure if he can fill Gabriel's boots for Arsenal, so that will be a challenge. Real Madrid, on the other hand, they have, obviously, Tchouaméni that won't be fit, so it will be Camavinga and a 39-year-old Luka Modric that will be starting. Now, I'm not dissing Luka Modric by any means, because he's a brilliant player, but Arsenal have too many attacking weapons, in my opinion, that may potentially come and exploit that midfield. So, what am I going to say this game will be? I think it may be another draw. I think it might be another draw. I had thoughts in my head Real Madrid would win, but then the Emirates is a tough place for people to go. Arsenal haven't lost in the Champions League at the Emirates for over 6 years. So, it's going to be one tough game, and I think Real Madrid will struggle. But I am going to say they will nick a 1-1 draw in this one. I think it will be a very tight game. It will be a very compact game at the Emirates. The fact the second leg is at the Santiago Bernabeu really helps Real Madrid. And granted how they had a really tricky tie against Atletico Madrid, unlike Arsenal who eased past PSV Eindhoven. So I think that competitiveness will benefit Real Madrid than Arsenal, but it'll be a tough game either way because Arsenal are a very good team on their day, so I'm going to say it will be 1-1 in this one. Then let's move to the Allianz Arena for this one, the second quarter-final of Tuesday, which is between Bayern Munich and Inter Milan. The tie of the round this is, for my opinion. I really think this is the tie of the round. Bayern Munich and Inter Milan are both having splendid seasons in their domestic leagues. Bayern Munich struggled last season under Thomas Tuchel. This season, they finally got a better understanding under Vincent Kompany. They finally got a better understanding of the real Bayern Munich. And, this will show, the squad final will show against Inter Milan. A rematch of the 2010 Champions League final where Inter Milan did win. And, ultimately, this will be a very tough game for both sides. The last time they did play was in the UEFA Champions League Group C, where they did win Bayern Munich each at the San Siro and at the Allianz Arena by 2-0. I don't think it will be anywhere near like that. I think this will be tough, and I think this will be very competitive. Inter Milan have the best defence in the league. They've got the best defence in the Champions League. They've only conceded 2 goals, I think. They've only conceded 2 goals in this year's Champions League. So they mean business. Inter Milan. And I think overall, with the defence of Bastoni and Acerbi, and also Jan Bissek, them three are defensive monsters, and they can get into the ball. Also, not saying about Benjamin Pavard. He's also shown, former Bayern Munich player himself, that he's capable of playing in Serie A and capable of defending the likes of Bayern Munich in Serie A. So, what am I saying this prediction will be? I actually think Inter Milan may win this one, because I think Bayern will be annoyed. They will get annoyed very quickly of how Inter Milan play. They play almost like an Nottingham Forest type of play, how they tend to sit back and then go for it on the attack and get a win. They like to do that a lot. They did it against Feyenoord at the Kuip. They did it at the San Siro. They've done it recently. They did it when they beat Arsenal. They counter-attack and then it was a penalty. So, overall, this Inter team means business. And I think they are my dark horses that win the competition, Inter Milan. I think a lot of teams are sleeping on Inter Milan. The problem is, I think, with Inter Milan, is they are in... No, they're not. They're in the right path. So they're in the path of either Barcelona or Dortmund. So they could do damage. They could do real damage. And I fancy them going into the Champions League final if they obviously beat Bayern Munich in this first leg. I think this first leg will be massive. The second leg at the San Siro, I think, will be a bit more easier. But for the time being, I'm going to say Inter Milan will win this game by 2-1. I know I'm very... Every time I do a really bad prediction, I know about it afterwards because my team, they get hammered. Just look at PSV v Arsenal. I thought PSV would win that game. They lost 7-1. So, yeah, if Inter Milan lose, then I'm sorry. But I just think Inter's play will frustrate Bayern a lot. Bayern struggled in the Champions League. They didn't do it against Bayer Leverkusen, but against Celtic, I thought they struggled, especially at the Allianz Arena. Celtic shown some fight. It was only until a 95th minute goal from Alphonso Davies was why they went through to last 16. Because if not, then Celtic could have potentially went through. So, taking that into the account, I think it will be a tough game for Bayern Munich to break Inter Milan. So I'm going to say a 2-1 win for the Nerazzurri. Then another day, same Barcelona, moving to the Montjuic for Barcelona versus Borussia Dortmund. And this for Barcelona, well, is the easiest of teams they could have got. They could have got any other team. They could have had the likes of PSG. They could have had the likes of Bayern Munich. They could have had the likes of Aston Villa. They could have had the likes of Liverpool. But they played Borussia Dortmund, and Dortmund have struggled. Dortmund have struggled this season in the Bundesliga. They've fought back to get 8th. Before they were 11th, but they've fought back. They've got a couple of wins under Niko Kovac, and they are now 8th, which is fairly good there for Borussia Dortmund. But Barcelona are they're a different side this year. They are a different side. Part of that, I think, comes under Hansi Flick, of how he has transformed Barcelona's mentality. Bayern Munich, when they did win the Sextuple in 2020, they won 6 titles that year, was partially because of Hansi Flick and Robert Lewandowski, of how they became monsters, mentality monsters. And he has enforced that with Barcelona, with the likes of Rafinha, the likes of Lamine Yamal, all getting record-breaking stats for the Blaugrana, for Barcelona. And like you say, they're dismantling teams for fun Barcelona. Look at the game against Atletico Madrid. in the league, the 4-2. They had adversity. They were 2-1 down at Barcelona until until Ferran Torres stepped up. Lamine Yamal got a goal, and Ferran Torres scored to make it 4-2. So, but that shows you the mentality monster of the Barcelona. They can come back from adversity any style. 2-1 down. Alexander Sørloth scored. Not looking like they find a way to win. Ferran Torres scored to make it 2-2. Then the game was largely on Barcelona's side, and then Lamine Yamal scored, and then Ferran Torres scored back 4-2. So they show no mercy. They will come at you, and they will annihilate you if you are down. If you are down and out, they will just annihilate you even more, because that is how Barcelona run. Even against the game against Atletico, when they won 1-0 at the Copa del Rey, they dominated. They dominated Atletico from minute 1 away at their home ground. They dominated, and they looked like they were the side that controlled the crowd. Ultimately, the crowd, they were stunned because Barcelona played them off the park. They tried to do everything, but Barcelona couldn't. Barcelona controlled everything. So that for Borussia Dortmund will be a down factor. Dortmund, they do have players obviously like Girassi and that. In the game, the 4-1 win against FC Freiburg, we did have the likes of Jamie Byron Gittens, Karim Adeyemi, that all started. I think a player that you may need to watch is Carney Chukwuemeka he came from Chelsea. He scored a goal against Freiburg. He scored his first goal for Borussia Dortmund, so he will look like he will be on some form. Therefore, I think Kovac will probably pick him in the starting lineup against Barcelona. But Barcelona too strong. Bit too strong. And if it's anybody who knows how to beat Borussia Dortmund, it's Hansi Flick. So, score-wise, I think the first leg score will be pretty dominant. At home at the Montjuic, I think it will be fairly dominant. Dortmund may have a bit of a chance in the second leg at the Signal Iduna Park next week, but I think this week will just be pure dominance for Barcelona. That's why I'm going to say 3-1 to Barcelona. I think they will try their best, Borussia Dortmund, but I don't think we can get anywhere near them. I think the best team will get near them, but at the minute, I don't think any team can get near Barcelona's capability in this competition and in La Liga. So 3-1 win to the Blaugrana, I am saying, at home at the Montjuic. And finally, the last game of the Champions League comes to the Parc des Princes between Paris Saint-Germain and Aston Villa. Aston Villa, they have been the surprise package of this Champions League. Nevertheless, they've been... We thought Aston Villa would do well, but not this good. Not this well. Going to the top 8 was an achievement. They had the easiest team, well, more or less the easiest team. The team that finished 24th, they had Club Brugge. They went and won that. So, playing against Paris Saint-Germain is basically like a reward, but they could have played Liverpool, but instead PSG decided to show their best performance, and I think a best performance against the Liverpool side in recent memory. The first leg was one of the most first half sides, one of the most dominant games I think I've ever watched from a side, and yet they lost 1-0. I have no idea how they could have done that. The second leg, that was a bit more gritty. Paris Saint-Germain scored an early goal from Ousmane Dembele, and then it was pretty much, well, let's sit on it. Let's go calm. Let's sit on it. Wait until penalties. You know, when you've got the best penalty saver, Gianluigi Donnarumma, he is going to win you a game, and he did. He saved 2 penalties from Curtis Jones and Darwin Nunez to make it 4-1 on penalties. Paris Saint-Germain advanced to the quarterfinals. What will benefit Paris Saint-Germain is they have won the league. They won the league on Saturday with a 1-0 win against Angers. Desiree Doué with the goal. So what they can do is they could put all their eggs in the basket for this Champions League. I know they could have done that in other recent years, but this, they've got nothing to play for. They've won the league. You have won the league. So you might as well either go and make history in France or win the trophy that Nasser El Khelaïfi wanted to win. And I think Nasser El Khelaïfi will probably prefer to win the Champions League instead of that. And I think this is their best chance for them to win the Champions League. They've been in this stage before. They went in it before, like last year and some years before. But they actually feel like a team. They feel like a team, Paris Saint-Germain. They feel like a team with the likes of Kvaratskhelia, Dembele. You've got Bradley Barcola, you've got Desiree Doué, who was a quality player against Liverpool. He stood out a lot to me. And overall, you've just got this team that may potentially win it. But first, they have to get past Aston Villa. And Aston Villa, they've done really well themselves. They've buckled up. They've won the last 9 games. So that means that they're on for something, Aston Villa. They are on for something. They are on for that win against Paris Saint-Germain. Rashford, obviously, is starting. He's starting to show something at Aston Villa. Marco Asensio, I think PSG will start regretting letting him go because he is an absolute... He's done really well for Aston Villa. He's the best player in the Premier League so far, for my opinion. He's the player that has stood out the most in this Premier League and in the Champions League. He's Aston Villa's player of the month without a shadow of a doubt. And I just think that will take it all. But Villa, they beat Forest 2-1, very convincing win. But like Daniel Marlon, Morgan Rogers, Yuri Tielemans, Amadou Onana, they're big and physical people that PSG will have to get past. And they will do. I think they will get past them, but they shouldn't look at Aston Villa and think this is an easy win. This should be, right, we have a tough game on our hands. Against their former manager too, Unai Emery. He did used to coach at Paris Saint-Germain. So he will know the Paris Saint-Germain system. Maybe not now under Luis Enrique, but in previous years he would have known the system of how Paris Saint-Germain operate. So, score predictions then for the first leg. I think this will be a really tough game. I think this will be a really tough and really exciting game to watch. I think Aston Villa, they create something that not a lot of teams will. People are saying they will smash Aston Villa out of the park. Paris Saint-Germain, I don't think they will. But I do think they'll beat them. I think Paris Saint-Germain will beat Aston Villa. So I'm going to go for a 2-1 win for Paris Saint-Germain. It may potentially be a draw. It may potentially be an Aston Villa win. If Aston Villa win, then I think they are favourites to go through to the semi-finals, which would be extraordinary for Aston Villa if they really do that. So I'm going to say it will be a 2-1 win from Paris Saint-Germain. I think Kvaratskhelia will show up. I think for Villa, it's impossible to say Marco Asensio will score. I think it is impossible to say he won't score. And I believe Marco Asensio will be able to play that game against Paris Saint-Germain. I think he's on loan, but I'm not sure if he's tied with them. I think he can still play. So, yeah. I just think overall, Kvaratskhelia, Asensio, Rashford, Barcola will show up in this game. However, I say PSG will just have the slight edge over Villa on this one, 2-1. So just like that then, I will get going. I'll be seeing you soon next week for more Champions League predictions, where we will be doing this the exact same next week with a little bit of reaction to this week's predictions. So just like that, I will get going. See you soon, stay safe. Talking to you a lot then in the next one. See ya, and bye-bye.